Hello, my name's Charles Dynastic. I'm the Managing Director of the Blue Bond Group. We've been inheritance tax specialists for more than 18 years and have helped hundreds of clients save millions of pounds on their inheritance tax planning. So today's video is sort of intrinsic to what we do and why our service is extremely unusual in so much as the problems that clients face when they deal with their inheritance tax planning, and it's what I call the advice gap. So if you're intending on moving forward with getting advice around your inheritance tax, this video is really important for you because it'll help you understand the problems that you might encounter as you move forward with getting your advice. So welcome back, and today's video is around what I call the inheritance tax advice gap. So basically, when you deal with inheritance tax, you have to deal with three separate types of firms. So people who will give you legal advice, lawyers and solicitors, they will be needed to deal with your trusts, estate planning, things like that. You'll need financial planners and independent financial advisors to help you deal with possibly investments into trust, life insurance, maybe you may need an equity release, something like that. And last but not least, if you've got high values of assets, you may want to set up a family investment company because you simply have more money than trusts are able to deal with, because you can only put 650,000 into trusts every 7 years. So if your estate is quite large, then a family investment company might suit you. So what are the problems you encounter when you deal with these three different types of service? Okay, so the diagram you see in front of me represents legal services, financial planning and financial advice services, and tax services. And what I'm saying here is that each of these different services have their levels of expertise, and I'm not saying they don't, but towards the edges of their expertise, in other words, lawyers will absolutely understand the legal work around trusts and things, but there are certain types of investments that they can't deal with. They may not understand how equity release plans work, how life insurance works. So they can only give you advice in a certain area. Your financial advisors and financial planners will certainly have a pretty good idea of tax, and they'll probably have a reasonable idea of trusts and things, but they can't actually set them up. And therefore it's the detail of that that gets involved. And then if you get financial advisors, and you ask most financial advisors, how do family investment companies work and what's the intricacies of that and how does that work with employee benefit trust, they'll say, no, you need a tax accountant or a tax lawyer for that, and therefore they can't deal with it. And sometimes where people want to manage their own investments as well, financial advisors don't necessarily want to deal with that because that's how they make their money, right? So then if you're dealing with your tax accountant or tax lawyer, sure, they'll understand how to set up your family investment company, but the gap they have is that they may not understand the things that financial advisors understand about investments and things like that, and certainly not the areas about setting up trusts. So what happens is that towards the edges of the advice, the tax lawyers may say one thing, the financial advisors may say something else, and the lawyers may say something else entirely. And it may only be slight differences, but those slight differences can make a massive difference to your plan. And therefore you fall between the gaps. And therein lies the problem, because you don't know, because you don't have the technical expertise, if your lawyer is right, or your financial advisor is right, or your tax accountant is right. All three of these are experts in their own right. So it's pretty difficult for you to refute that. But if there's contradictory advice, how do you know? And therefore, what we do is because we have chartered accountants in the business, because we have regulated independent financial advisors, because we have lawyers all in the same company, basically the plans that we put together don't have an advice gap because everything comes together as an integrated plan for our clients. But then when it comes to actually implement those plans, because what happens is that as a company, as a group of companies, we get the income from all three of those services. Therefore, clients for us are worth 3 times as much as they are to the financial advisor or the law firms or the tax accountants. Therefore, what we do as a matter of practice is we undercut the vast majority of those firms in terms of fees, because we've only got to deal with the client once, not 3 times. And then there's the ongoing relationship, you're reviewing your affairs and that kind of thing. And that may be reviewing your trust, may be a service, reviewing your investments and your financial planning would be a service, reviewing your company and maybe doing your company books as a firm of accountants will be a services. Therefore, we've got the ongoing services. So therefore, as a firm, we tend to undercut most of those other companies out there as an individual basis because we can. That's the point, because we're only dealing with the client once. So that's what I call the advice gap. And the idea is to try not to fall in that advice gap. Okay, that's the point we've tried to bring together, that there is an advice gap for clients when they're dealing with 3 separate types of company, whereas what we're trying to do is to integrate that service and bring everything together to make sure that the advice that clients receive covers all bases, and therefore it's simpler and easier for clients to understand and move forward with a plan that they know works for them in a tailor-made manner. Okay, so hopefully you found that useful. If you did, please give the video a like, and we look forward to talking to you if you need any help. Thanks, and bye for now. Bye.